Welcome to this explainer. So, today we're going to bridge a really interesting gap. We're talking about the gap between those totally sanitized, perfectly quiet test environments we all grew up with and the chaotic, frankly unpredictable reality of the real world. I mean, we usually think of tests as these pristine little bubbles, right? A place where you can perfectly demonstrate what you know. But let's be real, how often does life actually look like that? Today, we're diving into some absolutely fascinating research that asks a huge question. What happens to our performance when we throw a little bit of real-world chaos into the mix?
I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine that universal, stomach-dropping anxiety of taking a test or even just writing a really crucial email while you're running incredibly late. You know the feeling, your heart's pounding, there's just noise all around you, the clock is literally ticking. Well, that feeling right there sets the stage for a core mystery today. Does adding this kind of real-world stress just absolutely ruin our ability to perform? Or does it do something else entirely?
To actually answer that, we have to look under the hood at how tests are built. For the longest time, test designers would just assume a task was hard purely based on the task itself. They were completely ignoring the actual psychological toll it took on the person taking it. But back in a really pivotal 2016 study, researcher Shoko Sasayama hit the nail on the head. She pointed out a massive flaw in this whole setup. The study basically argued, hey, we can't just assume a task's complexity based on its design, we actually have to validate it. We have to measure the real mental effort learners are spending. And this was a total game changer. It completely shifted the focus right back to the learner's actual, real-time psychological experience.
Now, as we know from the principles of cognitive load, our working memory is, well, it's juggling a lot at any given moment. Traditionally, we view extraneous load, we're talking background noise, confusing instructions, maybe a ticking clock, as the ultimate enemy of learning. It's the bad stress, right? The stuff we're always told we need to eliminate entirely so learners can just focus purely on the intrinsic and germane load.
But here's where it gets interesting. Researchers started wondering, what if that extraneous load is actually part of the real-world construct we need to assess? This brings us to a frankly epic 2023 A/B test by John Norris, Shoko Sasayama, and Michelle Kim for the Educational Testing Service. So, they took 276 English learners and gave them a task. Write an apology email to your professor because a delayed train is making you late for your class presentation. Now, half of these participants, Group A, got your standard sanitized prompt. No frills, just simple text instructions on a totally quiet screen. But Group B got a full-blown real-world simulation.
And wow, Group B was thrown directly into the fire here. They weren't just reading a boring prompt. Take a look at this. They get a sticky note summarizing the emergency, and this explicit, highly stressful warning that Professor Smith is incredibly strict. Oh, and they were given a fast 5-minute ticking clock, right while staring at an image of a crowded, stressful train car. And to top the whole shebang off, the researchers blasted actual train audio into their ears. We're talking the sound of moving tracks, doors opening and closing, conductor announcements the second the test began. They literally simulated the exact chaos of writing an emergency email on a loud, annoying morning commute.
So, the big question, did this crazy simulation actually change their state of mind? Well, the data says yes, big time. Look at that massive spike in time pressure for Group B. It jumps from a 3.60 all the way up to a 4.34 on a 1 to 7 scale. So yeah, the simulation worked. It stressed them out for sure. But look right beneath that. This is the wild part. It also made the task significantly more engaging. Their interest level actually jumped from a 4.78 to a 5.18. So the real-world context didn't just stress them out, it actually motivated them. It made them genuinely care about what they were doing.
To really ground these numbers in human reality, we can actually turn to the participants themselves. One participant, N315237, literally said, "The simulated train background noise increased my pressure." I mean, go figure, right? Turns out, blasting fake commuter noise into someone's headphones is highly effective. Other participants mentioned that just being told the professor was strict made them actively anxious, but, and this is key, they also said the whole thing felt incredibly cool and real. The simulation successfully bridged that gap between a sterile test and a living, breathing, panicky emergency.
And all of this sets up our biggest question. Okay, we know their hearts were racing, we know they felt the crunch of time and heard the noise of the train. But did they completely crack under the pressure, or did they rise to the occasion? How did this simulated stress actually alter the way they constructed language?
Okay, look at this plot twist. Notice the downward trend in syntactic complexity over there on the left, which is contrasted directly with that sharp rise in syntactic fluency on the right. So what does this trade-off actually mean in plain English? Basically, under real-world pressure, these learners sacrificed complex, flowery, long-winded grammar. Instead, they rapidly fired off a higher number of much shorter, simpler sentences just to survive the communication emergency. They totally prioritized getting the message across quickly over sounding perfectly academic.
I really want to emphasize this exact number right here, 1.5. Because this drop in complexity, it wasn't evenly spread out across all the students. The lower proficiency learners in the simulated group dropped an average of 1.5 words per grammatical unit compared to the folks in the quiet, non-context group. Now, when you're furiously typing out a quick 5-minute email, dropping 1.5 words per sentence is a massive shift in how you're constructing language. The stress acted like a heavy weight, and the learners who are still actively developing their language skills felt that weight the most. They stripped their language right down to the absolute bare essentials.
Now you might be thinking, wait, making lower-level learners struggle more? That sounds like a bad thing. But for test designers, this unlocks something absolutely crucial: the power of discrimination. Adding that real-world stress actually helped the test better discriminate between high and low proficiency learners. The advanced learners, they could handle the noise and the scary professor without a massive drop in their language complexity. But the lower-level learners had to switch into pure survival mode. The stress essentially proved exactly who could truly handle the language out in the wild, not just sitting in a perfectly quiet classroom.
So the big takeaway here is that bringing the noise of the real world into our assessments doesn't ruin them. Actually, scratch that. It makes them infinitely more authentic. Simulating context spikes learner engagement and interest. It practically forces people to practice real-world communication survival skills. And it reveals that fascinating trade-off, where our brains just naturally prioritize rapid fluency over beautiful complexity when we're under the gun. Ultimately, this provides a way better read on actual proficiency, and it prepares learners for the highly unpredictable environments they're actually going to face in their careers and daily lives.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. Take a look at your own life, your classroom, or your workplace. How well does your current training actually prepare you for the noise of the real world? Because if we're only ever practicing in these perfectly quiet, stress-free environments, we might be in for a massive shock when the train doors close and the clock suddenly starts ticking. It's just a really powerful reminder that sometimes a little bit of chaos is exactly what we need to truly understand what we're capable of.